belt. Always when you're in this seat. All right, now I'm about to perform my air brake test. First of all, I'm gonna let the examiner know that I'm using my primary air gauge for all my air brake tests. You can kind of slide your foot over here so you can get a little angle to see. So the first thing I tell them is I'm gonna be using my primary air gauge for all my air brake tests. My first test I will be performing is my ABS. In order for my ABS to be a good test, it should come on and off within 10 seconds. Turn my truck on, my ABS is on, my ABS is off. That was a good test because it came on and off within 10 seconds. The next test I will be performing is my governor cutout. In order for my governor cutout to be a good test, it should go off no higher than 140. So with the governor cutout, when you always hear that, that's what it is. Usually we'll bleed, right before you take your test, we'll bleed this down below 100, like you said in the video. All right, so now I've laid it down. Okay, now I'm gonna do a safe start. Make sure my truck's in neutral. Make sure both of my spring pop-outs are out. Apply it, clutch in, start my truck. All right, in order to speed up this process, I will rev my engine no higher than 1200 RPMs. So you're just assisting to try to build it up a lot faster instead of waiting. So no higher than 1200, 10, 11, and usually in this truck, since I know it so well, this one goes off at 125. The other truck that y'all probably take up at the test, it goes off at 130. Remember that, 130. That's hints right there to tell you, so watch this. See?
135.
So my governor cut out at 125 PSI. That was a good test because it was no higher than 140. All right. Now for my next test I will be performing is my leakage test. And in order for my leakage test to be a good test, I shouldn't lose no more than 4 PSI within 1 minute in this combination vehicle. So the first thing I usually do is I clutch it in, put it in a low gear, which is second, come to my key, turn my key off. Don't take my hand off that key until I turn it back to the on position. And that's how you know you got it back on. All right. Let my needle settle. First thing I'm gonna do is push in my spring, my parking, and my trailer brake. I'm gonna wait for that needle to settle, but while I'm waiting, I'm gonna pull out my phone. This will be the only time I use my phone during my test. So let me get this set up for my stopwatch. Stopwatch. Clock. Stopwatch. Now I'm gonna push that service brake in. Wait for that needle to settle. So right now, I'm at 85 PSI. Now I'm gonna start my minute. So now you gotta hold this brake down for a minute. And this minute, it's a long time when you're holding this down. It don't sound long when you say a minute. You go, oh, a minute ain't nothing. Holding this down, you'll start feeling the burn in your leg. You be like, woo. I got people that be shaking. How long I gotta hold it for? About another 40 seconds. Oh my God. So remember the number you called at the beginning so you get that same number at the end of this minute.
Or within 4 PSI. Right?
Yeah. But right now it's holding at 85, so it ain't moved. But some people forget 85 and they go back, oh, I'm about at 80. That's more than 4 PSI. Ooh, I do this every day and I still feel a burn. But these manuals are usually good with holding air compared to that automatic. All right, my minute is up. I'm still at 85 PSI. That was a good test because I didn't lose no more than 4 PSI within 1 minute in my combination vehicle. Take your foot off. Ooh, relaxing. All right, now for my next test I will be performing will be my low warning buzzer and light. In order for my low warning buzzer and light to be a good test, it should go off no lower than 55. That's what DMV want to hear, no lower than 55. So now I'm gonna watch my gauge, I'm gonna start fanning. All the way down, off. So you see where my needle at right now?
Yep.
That's 75, right?
Yep.
Straight ahead. These 3 lines right here, 60, 65, 70. So most likely by the time I kick down one more, if I get in within there, this buzzer gonna come on.
Got it.
Watch. See, I called it. My low one in the buzzer came on at 66 PSI. That was a good test because it was no lower than 55 PSI. All right. Now, for my next test I will be performing is my spring pop-outs. In order for my spring pop-out to be a good test, my parking brake and my trailer brake will pop out, and I will call the PSI. Sometimes they pop out together, you call it together. Sometimes this trailer pop out first, you call it, and then continue on until your parking brake come out. All right? So, and you got to keep your eyes on here to make sure that they pop out together. Because if you don't, you can hear one pop out, and you think both of them popped out, and they didn't. Both my parking and my trailer brake popped out at 35 PSI. That was a good test. All right. Now for my next test I will be performing is my tug test. But before I perform my tug test, I want to do a safe start to build my air pressure back up to full capacity. So put it back in neutral again. Make sure my brakes, which popped out, they applied. Start my truck. And if I want to, I will rev my engine no higher than 1200 RPM to speed up this process. And then once we finish this air brake one, and then I'm gonna have you stop, and then we're gonna record the end cab. I just passed that lower warning and buzzer, so that's why that cut off. But like I tell a lot of people, if you practice in this truck, your air brakes a lot, if you watch that gauge, certain areas your gauge hit at every point. So like me, I know usually right here, this is where my governor cutoff is. Somewhere about 90 to 100, sometimes 85, that's where my low, my leakage usually occur. My low one in the buzzer, the 3 lines right there. And then anything from there is my spring pop outs. So sometimes like that, I figured that out. I kept doing my air brakes, I'm looking at this gauge, I'm like, this gauge is actually talking to me. All I gotta do is look and see where every step hits. Then I know what my next step was. I taught a couple of guys that, and they started looking at it and say, man, you know what, that is correct. If you keep doing it so much, you know pretty much around what area every step hits. All right, okay, now I'm at full capacity. All right, my first tug test I will perform is my trailer brake test. In order for my trailer brake test to be a good test, my trailer brake should be able to hold my combination vehicle in place. Put it in second, release my parking brake, come off the clutch until you feel it like tug. And I know my tire slid because I can hear it. My parking brake was a good test. My parking brake held my combination vehicle in place, and we on gravel anyway. All right, my next tug test will be my parking brake test. In order for my parking brake to be a good test, it should hold my combination vehicle in place. Apply, release, come off that clutch slowly. My parking brake was a good test. It held my combination vehicle in place. My next test I'm gonna perform will be my service brake test. In order for my service brake test to be a good test, my service brake should stop my combination vehicle. My steering wheel shouldn't pull left or right to indicate a brake adjustment problem. Before I perform this test, I'm gonna check all my mirrors and surroundings and make sure it's safe to proceed. No more than 5 miles per hour. Check, everything good, nobody around, clear. Release that brake, come on a little bit. My service brake was a good test. It stopped my combination vehicle in place. My steering wheel didn't pull left or right to indicate a brake adjustment problem. Truck back in neutral. And in your head, if you want to, say my ABS was my first one, my governor cutout, my leakage, my low warning buzzer and light, my spring pop out. my tug test, which consists of my trailer brake, my parking brake, and my surface brake. 8 steps. If you did all 8 steps of those, then I will conclude my in-cab inspection.
Got it.
All right, stop that.